I really did, and do.
Love
And
the way.
yeah, I'd like to yeah, let's mix it up and see what happens. Okay, we're live on one, two, three, four, five, six, and Twitch always takes longer, so that's okay. We're gonna give them a couple minutes. We're gonna play our intro, which is a minute and 19 seconds, and then we're gonna come back with the beautiful Jamie Williams, a beautiful beloved sister who's been doing the work, and she's got a story to tell and some things to share. So how's it going, everybody? Check, check, check. We've got the beautiful Jamie Williams in the house. She's been doing, she's made a couple of appearances on Navigating the 5D Frequency on Sandra Mathis's show that's been on Soulogy. Can you hear me all right, Jamie?
I can hear you good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, you're just frozen a little bit. It's just your stream, but that's okay.
Oh,
That's okay. You have a good picture of you up. So there's been a lot going on. There's been a lot going on around the realm for the last 10 days. We talked to Franco Di Nicola yesterday. He had talked about for a long time. He has really good intel. I don't know if you've ever listened to him,
no.
but we've had him on regularly since it's been a long time. I mean, we've probably done 40 shows together. But he has some pretty good intel. He's been plugged in since he was in the womb. He's got recollection of previous lives on other planets. I mean, this is a guy very humble. He's been doing the work for years and years and years.
Mhm.
Anyway, he had talked about every month there's like a theme, and come about toward the end of July, from like say the 20th of July through like the 15th of September, there would be an integration period,
Mhm.
much like what we all go through when we get a huge download and you get activated and then you kind of integrate for a while and then you expand.
Mhm.
That period ended mid-September. It fell in line with my own experience. There was huge activating energies of what we might call divine union, which of
Mhm.
course begins within ourselves, in exhibited in couples and androgynous beings.
Mhm.
That was really pronounced in the last couple of weeks, first week of October, and then since that period ends, we've had about a 10-day period of hell in a handbasket.
I agree.
Now I don't know how your trip's been going, but before we get into that, let me just say thank you for coming on and sharing space with us. Thank you for honoring us with your presence and taking the time out of your day to dip into the Soulogy pool.
Well,
Uh, so, in terms of like the last 10, 14 days, have you noticed anything in yourself and in those that you interact with?
absolutely. What I've been noticing within myself and the people that I interact with, is mainly my family. I have children. We have close family members and people that I actually work with. Um, what's been going on is a lot of it's more like a purge. That's the way it's been appearing to me. It's like these energies are pushing all of that effluvia, that last minute stuff that's within everybody. It's like it's pushing it up to the surface, and people are going crazy. I mean, there's been, like I say, in my household, the fighting has been unlike ever before, and that's
Wow.
around me. But within myself, it's coming out of myself as well. But I'm just understanding how to navigate. those ascension energies and understanding when to rest and, taking a look at, okay, what's happening and to integrate those energies within myself. But around me, those that are not really 100% sure about how to integrate those energies, it's like they're literally going crazy.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, it's been wild.
So, and I know we don't really, this isn't a typical talk show. It's more of a conversation, but we're going to go back and cover some things that they might cover in a typical talk show so people can get to know you if they haven't caught you on other programs. But like, I love what you described. I love that you were blunt and direct about it and said that, people are going crazy
Hmm.
because that's what I'm seeing. It's not all the time, it's just like fits and spurts,
Hmm.
and I see a lot of um, uh, flip flopping, an energy of calm and peace,
Hmm.
and then an energy of irrational projection.
Absolutely.
And I'm not really seeing it in anyone in particular, but I'm seeing it in the field as expressions of the mirrors that provide me the gift of being able to observe something like that and learn from that, hopefully apply that, and so that I don't fall into those um, patterns of massive or extreme fluctuations. How do you how do you because I love what you said too about you're in a somewhat of a strong foundational atmosphere with family. So you're able to observe a lot. It's like being in divine union with like seven different people.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
But
But how do you stay? How do you program Jamie? How do you stay centered? And if you fall off, how do you get back?
always staying in the heart, that high heart, that center, the secret chamber of the heart, is where I have to always return back to because I'm triggered. I'm triggered quite a bit as well. I mean, all of this is going on, and then again, you have family members, and it's like those people are put right around us that knows how to push every button that you have. But that is also um, to show you where you still have things that
Yeah,
need to heal as well. So that's a beautiful thing. But
yeah,
I have the grounding practice. I just understand how to go, and I don't necessarily have to have like a specific meditation session, but I understand how to go within a secret chamber of my heart, no matter where I am, and that just comes with time. Yeah, I used to
yeah,
have to take those particular moments, and I take this time and meditate, and it was a whole process. But again, now it's just at that point where I just understand how to just take a step back and
yeah.
go within that heart.
And what about, and this is a big one, I think,
Hmm.
and I don't just mean in the literal sense, because there's such a bleeding through of the non-physical and the physical now. You
Hmm.
know, we might, yeah, and that's solitude, alone time.
Hmm.
Like I live obviously with my wife, and it's a lot easier, I think, for two people uh, that live in a household and cohabitate to be alone than
Yeah.
if you have a house full of people.
True.
But there's also the energetic atmosphere of, let's just say, we use it as an example, soulogy, or the field that I'm in, and I get hit with a lot of energy, people, expectations, pushiness, agenda, and not that they're not full of love and have the right intentions, because we all have blind spots and we all have unconscious programming.
Right.
But what I'm trying to say is not about that. It's about, do you find it important to be alone, even if it's for 20 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days? Are you finding that you have to make it a priority in order to maintain your balance?
At this point, it's also a natural aspect. But yes, that's absolutely 100% important to have that alone time, to go in within yourself, to have that space with just your own energy, and to go within yourself, and to have that space of grounding. Um, Typically, again, being a mother, single mother, my alone time will come at nighttime.
Yeah,
So I'm able to do it every night, to have
yeah,
that space and that alone time every night, to go within myself and to have that alone time to integrate. And I'm also very well blessed to work at a crystal mine, and so they have this room. There's two rooms there that with these very massive crystals, different types of crystals from around the world, and I'm able to go in those go and on the weekend. I go into those rooms and have the opportunity to just um, have that alone time with those beautiful specimens. So I'm very
Wow.
in that aspect. Very,
Far out. We're gonna have to come for a visit because we're only an hour and a half from you.
yeah. Please do.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like, and I can relate to that. It sounds like you have a consistent alone time, so it probably doesn't become as much of a factor because it's already built into your grounding
Right.
foundational process. I mean, I can relate to that because I went to Sedona for 3 weeks and was working all day, broadcasting, and then I'd come home at night. And normally, Morgan and I spend a considerable amount of time reviewing and just mixing our energy and
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that we do, kind of the couples alone time, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. And what I was finding was that at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning, when I was over there, I was waking up or not even being able to go to sleep after we would connect and commune and connect together as we do every night. I wouldn't be able to sleep, and I didn't figure it out till like the last night before I left. Uh, I wasn't having alone time, so I was having to get out of bed, go sit on the back porch, and just kind of like what do we do? You just kind
Mm-hmm.
of bring everything in, and kind of refile, defrag, whatever you want to call it. So
Mm-hmm.
I can see how that works. I can see how that works. Let me ask you about you're obviously you've been woke for a while. You're from the South, like I am.
Yes.
I grew up next to in Dallas Fort Worth, next to an African American development or whatever you call it. It was actually a sharecroppers village.
Oh wow.
So the main neighborhood was on the other side, and I was next to them.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so I hung out there a lot, and one of the things I picked up on was their spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my friends became pastors,
Mm-hmm.
and I really got to understand the culture,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very interesting. So I know the level of dogma and doctrine that is incorporated into that environment. Let's
Yes.
say the Southern Baptist. Um, I was raised Roman Catholic in my early years, so it was very much a lot of that. Not as loose. I mean, not loose. I mean, I think what I was exposed to with the black churches, they were realistic.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a problem singing and dancing and cussing and smoking. You know what I mean. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, how did you come out of that environment? How did you wake up? Did you have problems? Did you get estranged from family? Did they tell you were crazy and a witch and all that stuff?
Okay. So it's a process if we have a moment. Um, a lot of dogma. So just raised in the Southern Baptist aspect of it. And by the time I was about 25, I kind of transitioned over to the Church of God in Christ, where they're a little more open with the speaking in tongues and the
Yeah.
Holy Spirit and all that stuff like that. And so that was more around about the 25 age mark. And it actually took some very traumatizing instances to happen to my life in order for me to back out of that dogma. But it had to happen like three on a grand scale 3 times in order to shake me, for me to finally take a step back and say, wait a minute, um, there's much more to what's going on here. Like this is dogma. This is much more to it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have trouble. My mother is very open. I like was born to a goddess. She never really pushed the whole church thing. She never pushed that even growing up. So I didn't have to really deal with that in my family. Um, the only thing I've had to deal with, of course, is once I stepped onto the path of the awakening path and began to talk about the higher vibrational beings, and of course talking about the extraterrestrials and things like that. That's when it got a little,
Oh,
you
by
know,
the way.
yeah. So that's when it got side eyeing. But I have been so blessed that my family members they have this level of trust. My heart has always been open and pretty pure. And so they watched me and they had a trust in what I had to say. So I've
Yeah.
been very blessed in that regards. But yeah, in order to come out of that whole dogma, again, it was 3 very major incidents that had to shake my complete foundation and it could take a little time to tell those stories. So,
Hmm.
um, I'll,
Well, I mean, and this is really good, and thank you for that. We're going to go through and discuss some of it, but um, so your story, I think, probably at the baseline is very similar to most of the people that come on this
mhm,
show, which is I was born, I knew I had sensitivities. I started to express them. I was shut down. I was told that those people aren't in your room, your imaginary friend's not real, and all that stuff. And then we get married, and we're high school, college married, and you have kids, and you kind of semi asleep.
mhm,
And then they would have some traumas
mhm,
sometimes, and it sounds like probably the same with you that happened to me. There was a successive number of traumas,
mhm,
which is like wake up, like nudge you, tap you, and then pop you in the head, like, hey, this is the real game now. But as far as like, I mean, I can't even imagine. Not even with the religious aspect. And I love Arkansas. That's one of the
mhm,
reasons we live here. There is a certain frequency of just kind of let everybody do their own thing. You
mhm,
know, like you
mhm.
see a hippie and a redneck standing next to each other, and they just mind their own business. Everybody's MYOB. But in this environment, because I have worked in this state off and on, really going back to like the late '80s.
Mhm.
Um, there's some pretty strict, hard and fast do's and don'ts. And I would think that ETs, visitations, discussion of anything that's considered a cult, which really isn't a cult, but might be viewed as a cult in the South, would be a big challenge. Was it just that you were contained within that family environment and you were like maybe untouched by others? Or did you have experiences where you were put into uncomfortable situations and you had to kind of like stand your ground? I mean, did you have any resistance?
The only resistance I had, work at a college,
Hmm.
and those I were going through heavy initiations from about 2017, and still we still currently are still going through these, I call them initiations, where you're actually being challenged and you have to integrate all these energies. And so I'm going through all this different stuff, and those that were close around me, I was honest about what I was going through. And again, I was still blessed to where they had a level of trust in what I was saying, but they said, but I did have the comments, if we didn't know you, we would just say you're crazy. And I heard somebody tell me that, if we didn't really know you a little better, we would say that you were crazy. So I've been extremely blessed. There wasn't a lot of resistance. It's just that people, I've been put in these situations, it's like very strategically, and the
Mhm.
people around me has had the opportunity just to watch it. It's almost like they're standing back observing my life, and watching what's happening, and then able to say, "Wait a minute, she's on to something,"
Yeah,
and that's I've been very blessed with that.
that's cool. That's cool. And yeah, I can just feel like your stream of consistency. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Not real outspoken, but it's gonna say it as it goes, kind of thing. Not trying to like pull anybody over to this side, but
Exactly.
just planting those seeds. So you're a single mom. You have how
Mhm.
many kids do you have at home?
I have three. I have two at home, and I have a grown daughter.
Is that right?
Yes,
Okay, so you've actually navigated some of this transition we call the ascension with kids in the house,
absolutely. The whole
with
thing, yeah, with
the
his
whole
kids,
thing, right?
the whole thing with kids in the house, and so.
Yeah,
But I also look at it as that, when you begin to understand the way things work, and you understand that these children chose me, they're also light workers, and so it was almost like a, a a marriage, so to speak, before they ever even incarnated. So it's almost
true.
understood what to expect from a higher level. They kind of understood what to expect out of me once they even came into the picture. So they observed that very beautiful, family of light workers.
Yeah. Have you we've had quite a few people come on here that have had children that are in their home,
Hmm.
that have interacted let's just say interacted openly or otherwise, really, in regard to the reality of the ascension, galactic aspects, angels, elementals, telepathy, telepathy. What am I trying to say? Telepathy. But I guess what I'm trying to say, that children are engaging the parents from even before they come out of the womb. And then there's others that have come on here that have these, preteens and teenagers that are bringing like real high frequency to the
Mhm.
family circle.
Absolutely.
Are you getting any of that from your kids?
100%. 100%. My son, my son is 14. That's my youngest. And before I conceived this child, I was actually still married, still in church and all of that. And it was spoken to me very clearly that I would have this very special child. Didn't understand the star seed aspect at all at that time. But it was spoken to me in that way. It'd be a very special child. This child would have a Christ element about him. And I fought that. I didn't want to, at that particular time, I didn't want to have any more children. But long story short, of course, it ended up happening. He's here. And as I watched him grow, I mean, he has been very instrumental on helping my awakening process. Just a lot of things that he sees, and the things that he will say. He's helped me a whole lot, even in my awakening process. So it's kind of like we're more simultaneous,
Right.
and so he's definitely a start. But he's actually helped his other siblings to real, and they're older, but he has helped them to realize their potential as star seeds as well. So it's a
Wow.
beautiful mix.
So this,
I will say this
yeah. Go ahead.
say this about at this point in his life, what I am watching, this is troubling because I see in this world, in the third dimensional world, and him doing his work as a star seed as well, because he's starting to get pulled into some of the third dimensional things.
Yeah.
And which we did too, but he kind of understands that he is a star seed, but he's being tempted a lot, and I see that war going on with him falling into the things that a lot of the teenagers are falling into. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of us had to go through that.
hmm
And it's such a. I've got six kids, and I had a couple of them with me,
hmm
only three of them, uh, while I was reawakening in the early years, and I learned a lot from them. And it's such a fine line trying to be a parent and still expand and elevate and educate.
hmm
I did not understand to the degree I do today, because the two young ones were girls and they started, they were like 11, 12 through about 13, 14. It was about almost a 3 year period. And I did understand that they were teaching me something about the divine feminine frequency, because I'd also met Morgan. So I was getting kind of an education from her and then from living with them. But I didn't understand the frequency, the level of their frequency, or the potential that enhancement that they gave to me
hmm
until later.
hmm
And so it's a beautiful thing. But I'm really intrigued that now. So in your household, you openly talk about being star seeds.
Oh wow, we they
Yeah,
those
that's cool.
who have literally saw various the Merkabas, the starships. I mean, we literally have these experiences together. It's
Wow.
extremely beautiful. So um, it's not we see them together, and we're like, oh my goodness. And I have video, recordings and everything of it. So it's
Wow.
beautiful experience.
We're definitely coming to Hot Springs.
Please,
We had to
yeah,
do a show on all this.
yeah.
This would be a great reality show. Just put some
It would.
cameras up. Yeah, really? Put some cameras up in your house. So, and I just want to say too, I feel that Arkansas, because we were called here, it wasn't like we just said, "Oh, we want to go live in Arkansas." Uh, I feel like it's one of these places in the world that has kind of been under the radar. That as time passes and the energy continues to expand, it's going to kind of rise
Mhm.
as a major portal, um, because it's powerful. And I feel a lot of elemental um, presence here, like huge, like really, really huge,
Yes.
and very ancient connections to the stars,
Mhm.
and obviously with that the galactic presence as well. Have you? Does
Oh,
that resonate with you?
absolutely. And think about that. There's several crystal mines here, the quartz
Mhm.
crystal mines. You have the diamond mine here. So you're dealing with such powerful, just the frequencies from that alone. And this is, I mean, it's so, especially in the hot springs area. There's like mat crystals are under the ground everywhere. And then I live in a area that's kind of on the outskirts of hot springs called Magnet Cove, which is full of magnetite. So magnetite is completely up under the ground there. So you're dealing with all of those powerful frequencies from those very powerful gemstones.
Wow.
I was also, it was spoken to me though from actually the Arcturians that we have some, there are some Atlantean crystals at the quartz mine that where I actually work at. So we have some of those Atlantean crystals that are hidden there. So you have that to look at. So I'm already understanding that you're right. It's a portal, and it's going to be something very massive is going to take place here,
Yeah.
just due to those, from what I know about just the crystal element.
Yeah. Is that Mount Ida?
Mount Ida is where the diamond mine is.
Okay, the diamond mine. Okay. Yeah, because there's a lady I met that runs a crystal mine, I guess. Takes you crystal hunting, but owns the and I was invited there last year. I'll have to look that up and see maybe you know her or whatever. I want to ask you too. I want to get into some of the connections that you have and how those evolved and such in the intel that you receive and what your purposes are, because I know there's more than one. But I wanted to make another because I haven't had this opportunity. When I was younger, like I was telling you, in my teenage years, my formative years, I had a lot of friends that were in the Black community,
Hmm.
and I really got to understand. I think to a well enough degree the dynamics of the family slash the religious influence in their lives, just the whole thing, and it was very very cool. But one of the things that really jumped out at me was the strength of the mother,
Hmm.
like the matriarchal influence. I
Hmm.
have never seen that before or since. This was they talk about the Native American tribes and how they had the male chiefs and all that, but at the end of the day, when they had a decision to make, they went to the 13 grandmothers,
Hmm.
right? There was the same type of mentality, and obviously, I'd never seen that, but I was just amazed at how the men and the boys could be young boys and older boys and do their thing, but
Hmm.
then the mother would come in, or the grandmother or an auntie would come in and say, or all three of them and say, "Hey, here's the deal." I mean, I was amazed. So with having said that, I know you've had to been exposed to that because I can see it in you as
Hmm.
well. Um, there has been so much talk about the return of the divine feminine energy, the mother goddess energy,
Hmm.
and I think pretty much for anybody now, they can tell as we've gotten this far into 2020, it's starting to show its
Absolutely.
face in the physicality. What does that mean to you? What are your reflections on that? Where do you think it's going?
My reflections on that divine feminine energy, where it is. Are you asking where is it right now?
Yeah.
Um, well, as we are nearing this moment in on our linear time scale, and we're hearing a lot about there's the ending of this cycle, and so when we're at the end of this cycle and the beginning of the next cycle, the age of Aquarius is the rise of the divine feminine.
Yeah.
That's what the age of Aquarius is. So it's always been maneuvered to be that way. All of us that are here, especially us star seeds, that is like within us. That is hardwired within us. And at this particular moment, as we have our awakening calls, many of us have different ways we were awakened. It's already with hardwired within us that it was going to happen. And so at this particular time on the scale, that's just the nature of the awakening process. It's about that balancing those divine feminine energies with that divine masculine energy.
Yeah.
It's about coming back to being androgynous again.
Yeah.
It's more about the balancing of both divine masculine and divine feminine.
Yeah.
But the age of Aquarius is the rise of that divine feminine because, of course, we've been in that patriarchal society for however many millennia, right? Now. So it's the rise of that divine feminine within us all.
Yeah. Right on. And in terms of that, you brought up androgyny, you brought up the dance of the divine,
Mhm.
the masculine and feminine within ourselves,
Mhm.
and then of course taken out and externalized in some different ways. Doesn't always have to be romantic, and everyone might want to think about that too. There's lots of divine union frequencies that are not romantic.
Absolutely.
Uh, but anyway, what I was saying is part of this that I've noticed recently too has been the good pressure put on to, let's just say, a man in terms of that dance within himself,
Mhm.
the role of the masculine energy within himself, the role of the feminine energy that had been suppressed. In fact, they both had been
Mhm.
uh, in terms of their true attributes, and then also on women. Uh, Coming from a strong matriarchal culture like you have,
Mhm.
and it sounds like you've also got some type of strong feminine lineage going on too.
But right,
uh,
I would.
that what can you offer to that? Have you had to have a kind of Jesus meeting with your divine masculine or your distorted masculine or distorted feminine? Have you had to like bring the him part of you out onto the carpet and say, "Hey, who are you? I need to get some stuff done. You're the
Mhm.
creator. My other side's the creation." I mean,
Mhm.
have you had to go through that type of stuff?
Absolutely. Again, I think we all have a particular process. Um, the masculine, again, that divine masculine, or not even the divine masculine, that masculine that has been coming up out of us is actually hadn't been very divine. It has
Yeah,
been um, of that old patriarchal system, and so that is inbred within. I say me as a divine feminine. That aspect is within me. All the things that were, I don't want to say beaten to me because it's not in like in a physical sense, but the things that I was raised to be. This is a man's world, and
yeah,
even growing up, was military, so I was still in that mindset of I need to do things as good as a man, So that's that masculine aspect, and that's that part of myself that I had to understand how to just take separate from. I
yeah.
had to separate from that part of it about that man's way is the right way, and I want to be just as strong as a man and do things as a man, and that's that old way that had to come out of me, and that was a huge part of my journey was to actually take that side of myself and say that this is enough, this is not right. Um,
That was a big part of mine too.
yeah.
Took years and years, and
Hmm.
it's just now getting to the. But what I've noticed in myself, and I'm looking for it now in the field, and I think it's going to be what I'm experiencing. And of course, I have a great partner who's been a practitioner for 20 years and has understood this stuff and downloaded this stuff for years and years and years. But of course,
Hmm.
you got to experience everything.
Absolutely.
But what I'm seeing is like just like what I talked about with my friends in the Black community when I was growing up, and the way the dynamic worked, which was at the end of the day, I mean, the masculine could go out and do whatever they wanted to, and many
Hmm.
times did.
Hmm.
But when the rubber met the road, mama's home, all right, and
That's true.
that's it. So and then in terms of the day to day functionality of the family and the church and the education and everything, they just led the way, and there was no masculine interference. You know what I mean? So what I've kind of come to is like, okay, so my feminine is leading the way,
Hmm. Hmm.
and my masculine follows suit, but the masculine is the one that takes the action, that
Hmm.
does that creates things, that goes to work. So it's kind of like coming to that point now.
Within yourself.
Yeah. And I'm trying to work out the rhythm of it, but I feel like that's how it works within myself. I mean, now
Hmm.
you read things and you hear things, and to me that's all theory and just postulation. But
Hmm.
when you experience something, you really feel it, and it just feels like that's how it's going. But I don't think it's done yet. You know what I mean?
I agree. I mean, we still are on that process, and we're still here. So as we're still here, we're still healing, and we have many millennia of healing to do. And so it's not going to happen um, that rapidly. We're going to have to kind of go through it. Though we have tools and things to help us to bring it along a little more rapidly, we still have to go through that work. And that has been the really hard work, is that divine, that masculine and the feminine on the inside of myself. I guess I don't have I've been single for 10 years. I
Wow.
divorced in 2010, and I have been single since that time. And so I've been kind of understood the process of the inner healing that has had, and it's taken that long, of that inner healing that has had to occur within me first. I had to come back to that balance, divine masculine, divine feeling, and then that will show up on the outside of myself as a mate.
Right.
But that has been a very hard process to balance that old masculine energy and then to allow the divine feminine to rise within
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. And I think what makes it difficult, well, say difficult, exciting, adventurous, is because, and I was talking to my wife about this, that like you have the divine masculine
Hmm.
and you have the divine feminine, and then you have the human male,
Hmm.
let's just put it, the human masculine and the human feminine.
Yes.
You might even say distorted masculine, distorted feminine.
Hmm. I like that.
But you can't have the conversation or the interaction or the friction, you know, in the petri dish or in the, what I mean, for the energy of creation. You can't do that unless you have all four involved.
Hmm.
Like to me, it's like okay, because there's like for what you just said a minute ago, the the allowing the feminine to rise.
Hmm.
Like everything else that goes on, as more time goes on in this ascension, it can mean one thing one day, and then the next day it means like 10 more things. So there's like this getting used to it. I guess that's what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
Like, where does the line stop between divine and distorted? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like we're working it out. And I personally think that this type of exercise or growth spurt or whatever you want to call it is what the human species, the human soul species, is giving to the universe.
Hmm.
Like I think we're the only ones that have ever done this, like in this degree of density.
That's what I'm getting to from the ascended masters, that this has never been done before to at this magnitude and this level of density. We've fallen lower than it has ever particularly fallen.
Let me ask you about that because I've heard you on other shows. You reference galactics, some specific like Arcturians a minute ago.
Hmm.
You referenced the ascendants. Uh, who are the faces of the universe that you commune with? And like, is there like a chronology how they came in the door,
Hmm.
and what is the type of intel that each one of them receives? I know that's a multiple question, but
Hmm.
if you forget some of what I asked, I'll remind you.
I just might. Well, it started. Yeah, it was in a chronological order. It actually began as with the Arcturians. It began galactic, and I'll back up and say it was before then. It was actually okay. It was Arcturians, and then it followed up with I saw I'm very clairvoyant and clairaudient, and so
Okay.
I saw Commander Ashtar of the Galactic Federation of Light. That premonition came before me and spoke some things to me. And it wasn't long after that is when I encountered the Commander Ashtars that were actually in the physical essence. And so I was able to kind of work with that energy quite a bit. Went through massive clearing for about 2 years with that Galactic Federation of Light energy. Now, well, I'll back up in just a second. So once I encountered that and went through a certain amount of missions, I had to get to a point to where my ego was pretty much non-existent. Of course it's existent, but that human ego had to be way non-existent, and the purity of heart had to be such that it was at a pure state of being. And that's when the ascended masters of the great white brotherhood they were able to contact me. You have a certain level of purity of heart and your ego has to be at a minimal, and they're able to contact you to the level that I was contacted. And I say to the level of going through initiations to actually be a conduit or an electrode for each of those seven Lord of the Seven Rays. Um, and so that's the chronological order that it happened in, and it stopped actually there. I'm still working with. This is who I work with. That's a part of my mission. I'll actually work with them as again the electrode in the earth, kind of like their hands and feet and eyes, bringing that information to the earth that I received from them.
It sounds like you're connected to the law of one.
The law of one, actually, the way they speak of it, they are, yes, the law of one.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
when you're dealing with anything in the fifth dimensional above, they really think in context of the law of one. That one is.
That's very cool. Very cool. This is very. We could be get very expansive on a lot of this,
Hmm.
but I can see you've got quite a bit of life experience and dimensional and interdimensional interaction that we can't
Hmm.
cover in an hour.
I know.
Um, Let me ask you about. I'm real big on what's happening now.
Hmm.
I look at these connections and memories that come back, and all this stuff is code opening up in us. And I think there's a lot of evidence for this. I don't think it's just me in terms of we're being forced to be more and more present in the presence because that's all there is. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so that to me really emphasizes our thoughts, words, and actions. Uh, our daily routine, our purposes, how we function, what we do. Um, but obviously, we're what? God, we're what, like a week away from an election.
Hmm.
Uh, you've had enough life experience. You're in the military. You're from the South.
Hmm.
You're a double minority
Hmm.
in America. Got ancestral lineage. We've got all kinds of stuff. Uh, what's your take on what's going on now? What I don't mean from a human political standpoint. I mean as a light worker who is here to do the things that we're here to do. How do you see our role? And how do you approach that every day and not get pulled into the minutia?
Well, once you begin to understand, we get to a certain level on the path, and you begin to understand what your specific role. I think um, us as light workers, we're a collective consciousness, and we all have different roles. I believe, we're all individual. We're all one, but we still are individual in our light working duties. Some of us are here to do some very similar things, and we are all drawn together as well. Even though we have a vast light working community, those of us, like, I feel like this is our connection. We all have a similar role, and those are the people that we're drawn to very closely. Um, and the way I see it at that particular time, you're understanding what it is that you're here to do, and that's how we execute, and not really get caught up in the rest of the stuff, because at this point, as far as with me, I understand what my role is. So it's very easy for me not to get caught up in or getting carried over into what's going on. I know that as far as with my point, I'm here to actually to send forth sacred fire, violet flame rays. I'm here to send forth certain rays of light in order to help break up a lot of the density that's going on. And so I understand that's what my role is. And that's what I believe at this stage, as the more advanced light workers, we just kind of understand what we are here to do and begin. And we're executing that at this particular moment or in the linear time of everything.
Gee, I mean, it's easy for me,
Hmm.
because live with a partner. We've been connected for 5 years. We eat, sleep, drink, and breathe all of this.
Hmm.
But we've said many times, I'm so glad we don't have any kids
Hmm.
in the house. We've got 8 between us. Um, you're, you are, uh, like I said, you're in the South.
Hmm.
You're a double minority. You work at a work at a college. You're in a matrix esque atmosphere because we
Hmm.
know the educational system's been a huge apparatus.
Definitely. And that's.
You you're a single mom.
Hmm.
You've got the kids in the house. You got all these hats you're wearing. Are you able to stay on your game all day long, every day, in terms of who you are, what you are, and what you're a part of? Or do you ever fall into the mom, thing, or the servant thing at work, or whatever the case is?
No. And that's
Good. Yeah.
an honest answer. Seriously, at this point, and being just so firm in who I am, and this is just an honest answer. Being firm in who I am, I bring who I am to every situation. Like the situations do not control me anymore whatsoever.
Right.
Is I bring who I am to those situations. Now I will say in my household has been the only aspect with my children that I have been triggered. And I've had to really watch myself. And y'all done made my two cuss words for the year. I'm supposed to be cussing and you cussing. I mean,
Well, kids can do that because they're the paybacks, right?
absolutely. That
So,
tell you. So that's I was in my home is the location to where I do am triggered, and that's it. They really show me a lot of where where I need to heal things within me that comes up in that way. But I am just very blessed to be at a place to where um I'm able to just be authentic and my honest self and not allow whatever's going on around me to take a toll on who I am.
um, so in like, what about the campus that you work on?
Hmm.
Are you seeing any evidence of these 18 to 23-year-olds? Are you seeing the evidence of uh, I guess, conscious discussions around these particular topics or anything like that? Are they? Uh, where are they?
They're
Are
not.
they in the Are they in the party mode?
Um, Actually, you were right when you said it's a community college, so we have the non-traditional, so we have both
Okay.
here.
So
Uh,
okay,
And
so you got
so,
a good mix. Yeah.
yeah, it's a good mix here, and I'm not really seeing much of a mix of people even speaking of the consciousness or the what's happening in the ascension process. I'm not really seeing that, but what's happening is that those that are in that frame of mind or in that mode, it's like they end up in my office. It's like I'm the place that people. It's like they just migrate here, and then we have these conversations. It's like this space is set up for that, and that's why I
Yeah.
say we do our light work wherever we are. Um,
Yeah.
that's where we're able to do
They
our light.
like a bee, like bees to honey. They come to you.
Absolutely. And so
And
it's another fortunate situation is.
yeah, and I've heard quite a few people come on this show and say the same thing. Most of
Hmm.
them are women.
Hmm.
Uh, that whatever their environment is, that people will just find them,
Hmm.
right? Like, that's a powerful thing. You talk about the great white brotherhood. It's been a while
Hmm.
since I connected to that stream, and it was for a period of about a month or 6 weeks,
Hmm.
way back. I've also had some connection with a sisterhood. I don't know if it'd be the Sisterhood of the Rose, or I don't know what the name would be, but seems to be some type of. And I've had experiences where they're both present.
Hmm.
Uh, if is there Does that ring a bell for you in any of your experiences? Is there a sisterhood? Because there certainly seems to be in the physical uh, a strong a strong network of sisters around this world
Hmm.
who have some very common attributes, which is one, their fortitude to listen to the guidance, to receive the sacred wisdom, to deliver it in a humble way.
Hmm.
They don't typically want a lot of attention, although that's
It is.
not probably in their hands at this point. But do you get a sense of that? Have you had any experience with that in the physical and or in the dimensional?
I have actually heard of sisterhoods of the Rose, like you have the Magdalene
Hmm.
sisterhoods, and I've heard of these different sisterhoods, but I haven't been involved in any of those. The beauty in I love that you're saying that because actually, with the dealing with the brother, and I say it's a brotherhood. Of course, it's a brotherhood and a sisterhood. It's masculine and feminine.
Yeah,
But I've received the dispensation of light, and dispensation of light is an increment of light to where the ascended master would have to go to the. We have a hierarchy, a spiritual hierarchy. So they have to go before the cosmic council and the karmic board to dispense a certain increment of light, which is of their radiance, and back to the earth in order to begin another sisterhood, and that just happened um, in my experience. And so there's a couple of ladies that we're already beginning to work together. It's another sisterhood of the Rose. And so I'm
Yeah.
sure what that will do will merge. It will magnetically merge us with these other sisterhoods. And I see what's happening. So you help me to kind of see what's really happening. It's happening quite a bit in different places, and then we can eventually, I'm sure, come together. Or maybe
Yeah.
there need to be certain of these organizations in certain places around the globe. And
Yeah.
so this is possibly what's actually happening.
Your two children, the ones that are still with you, how old are they? I'm just curious.
My 14 and 16.
Okay, so you're in the home stretch.
Yeah.
uh, what do you want to do? What What are you moving towards? How do you see yourself in the next, 1, 2, 3, 4 years?
Um, I again, I am actually, and I am the initiate of the Great Brotherhood, so I am a part of that um, brotherhood,
Yeah.
sisterhood. And they have given me very specific, and this was already agreed to before I ever came here. It's just I've just now remembering. And I actually, in my last lifetime, I actually worked with them quite a bit, and I've been able to see in my Akashic records, and it's all kind of just merging together. I'm actually completing something that I actually started in my previous lifetime, and
Okay.
there's a few projects that are in the making, very beautiful, that I'm not able to really discuss openly at this particular time. But these are very massive projects that's moving on into the new Earth aspect, and you'll be hearing about them. You'll be seeing, you'll see it. But those are the things. It's just very massive projects that will happen and occur, and it's gonna take a stretch of years in order for
Hmm.
things to really grow. But the foundations are already being laid for it.
Do you do as far as your online presence?
Mhm.
Do you do videos? Do you have a YouTube? Do you mostly post, or what kind of things do you do?
I mostly post. I know that it's at that particular time I'm being kind of pushed uh, into more of a spotlight, into more of doing the YouTubes and more of speaking out.
Hmm.
But if you probably can't tell, but I'm really shy, and so it's not very easy for me to really do a lot of online public, showing my face type of things. But it's at that particular time right now. There's a lot of information that I'm having to get out, that I know and that I have to get out. And so coming up, I'm going to have to begin to do more YouTube, more Facebook lives and things like that to get this very beautiful information out that's going to help so many people that's on this ascension process, that just doesn't, that they're trying to figure out what's going on, because this is a very delicate time right now, as you know. Um, and you're going to have a lot of people. It's already, the chaos is already happening
Yeah.
in the world, and so this is what we're here for, to balance that and to help those that are actually going through the chaos, and to bring that light and that balance to their world. And so I'm going to have to put myself more out there. I understand that.
Yeah. I don't think y'all are going to have a choice.
Yeah.
You know
No,
what I mean?
yeah.
Uh,
It's,
uh, I'm just curious with you again because of the state that we're both living in,
hmm
the political history of it,
hmm
on and on and on and on. There's such a mix here of everything, Native American, I mean, just everything is here. Um, what's your view on, or let me ask you this: have you noticed in the light worker community uh, a significant polarization, projection? Uh, in regard to the political topics of the day, where there's becoming kind of a muddying of the waters in terms of um, higher frequency or supposed higher frequency aspects of ourselves downloading information that is politically biased. Have you noticed that? And if so, what are your thoughts on that?
are as far as in Arkansas, that's why I'm excited to hear that you were in Arkansas. I haven't really encountered a whole lot of really high frequency beings here. Um, is what I'm actually encountering is the majority, and I almost want to say all the people that I am around um, are a part of what's going on. I mean, they're
Yeah.
trying to listen, they're talking about the election. They're really feeding into all of
Yeah.
this fear mechanism, and that's what I am actually seeing.
Yeah.
And so, I've
Good
been
point.
thinking, yeah, and so that's why I was like I said, I was when you said Arkansas, I was just so grateful to hear we have another very powerful light worker in Arkansas because we don't just don't see it. You might in your area, but here I'm just not seeing it.
Mm. Well, we haven't got out that much. I mean,
Yeah.
we do a lot of work together, and then of course what we do individually every day. I think that the geographical location of the coordinates of a soul on the grid is
Hmm.
relevant. I do have a gut feeling that Arkansas is going to be like rising, like a new major portal, like a Sedona or Shasta.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. It's I hadn't thought about that. I'm glad you brought that to light because it is and there always seems to be a paradox, at least in my experience.
Hmm.
So I can see, my stepfather was from Arkansas, backwoods,
Hmm.
youngest of 16 and all that stuff. So I understand enough of the culture and of the state, but it is a very unique melting pot
Hmm.
that has some pretty hard and fast kind of unwritten rules, I guess. Um, and I can see where there would need to be, there would need to be, points of light, I guess, or columns of light, uh,
Absolutely.
kind of, you know, and like you said earlier about in general, you can see the chaos, and we know what happens. It's always darkest before the dawn, right?
That's true. Yes.
So, how can people find you? What I know you're an energy practitioner. What do you do? Do you do that you do online, and how can people get in touch with you?
Um, right now, people can find me on Facebook under Jamie Williams slash Liam Liam. Um, and they inbox me. I am very open. And once somebody is wants to speak to me and inbox me, generally what happens is that then they'll have my cell number and we communicate like that. So
Okay.
right now it's Facebook and inbox is the best way to contact me to get a hold of
Okay.
me.
And I will go back and tag the post on the name so that they can just click it and get right to you.
Oh,
I look forward to collaborating with you again and again and again if you're open to it.
we, we will. Thank you so much for being in Arkansas at Point of.
Yeah.
I am so grateful.
Well,
Thank
we have to give credit to the feminine on that one.
Yeah.
I
Well,
just
thank
follow the
you
lead, but
to your wife. Thank you so much.
we look forward to meeting you and thank you for
Um,
coming in and sharing space with us and honoring us with your presence. All blessings to you and your family.
Thank you so much. You too. Thank you for having me here.
Yes, ma'am. You take care. Bye
You
bye.